Okay, so I'm often asked what fuel bottles to take for multi-fuel stoves when you go away out in the bush, and how long can you go for? Well, that depends on many things. Okay, so here we see two fuel bottles, a big one, a medium-sized one, and there's another one which is even smaller than this, about that size there. So the question is, how long can these things last for? Well, that depends on depends on what altitude you're at. It depends on what kind of fuel you're trying to burn in it, and it depends on what you're trying to cook. So let's start talking about the fuel for a start. In these ones now, this has got kerosene in it. Okay, kerosene, aviation gas, that's good stuff. It's all pretty relatively safe compared to using petrol. Sometimes I've used petrol, super grade petrol. In the past I used leaded, which is no good because it can contaminate your food. Hold a sec, I'm just going to move the meat a bit here. Got some meat cooking on the barbecue there, see that? Don't want to overdo that. Okay, put that in the fire. Alright, so it depends on the fuel. So you can burn white gas, shellite, it's sometimes called shellite, all those kinds of things. Now really, how long it lasts for, they put out different heats. The petrol is going to put out more heat than the Kero, but I like using Kero because it's not as volatile, it's a bit safer to use. But the thing for me is, you've got to learn how to cook a bit differently. So if you're going to try to use a multi-fuel stove to boil water, to boil foods like pasta or rice, it's got a lot of it's a high calorific foods. They're high calorific foods, but they do require a long time of boiling to make them edible. A better choice is, if you want to get time out of your stove, is to use things like instant noodles or rice noodles, or things that will cook quite quickly, and you can boil them quickly, bring it to the boil, let it simmer for about a couple of minutes, and then turn it off and leave it in the hot water. Insulate with leaves or grass or bracken around the pot, and that will cook it like that. That's fine. Rice is great, but rice really requires a long time boiling, and so do pastas, so you won't get as much out of it. A bottle like this with kerosene in, filled to the fuel line, and cooking food in such a manner like that, I can easily get 3-4 days out of it. This will be over a week easy like that. Okay, the other thing is, if you don't boil so many things, if you fry things, if you take containers with oil will cook boils at a higher temperature, so you can cook the food quicker in oil, but it means carting oil with you, which may not be appropriate after you run out of oil. You're not going to get any oil around here. Okay, so that's just a quick tip. You really need to think about the differences in the way of cooking, and later on I'm going to demonstrate that to you precisely, because you really, when you're using multi-fuel stoves, you really cannot cook how you're cooking at home on a stove with the same times, because you're just going to run out of fuel in a hurry, and you won't be able to enjoy the outdoors out here. You'll have to be coming back to civilization. Okay, I better get back to the meat.